Hi, kindergarten. Mrs. Wheaton here today to read to you. Before we begin, I have a question for you. Have you ever been to a space museum or a science museum with a space exhibit? If you have, great. And if you have not, that's okay too. Let's stop to think together for a moment about what are some things we think we would see or learn about at a space museum. Did I hear you say planets? Solar system? Astronauts? Maybe even space rocks? Well, today we are going to learn what you might see or learn about by reading a book from one of my favorite children's book series, Fly Guy. For those of you who do not know, Fly Guy is a super fun character who is going to take us on a field trip to a space museum. This is a nonfiction book, and we will learn today about some really cool facts about space. Remember that facts are real information, so all that we hear today is true about space. How cool is that? So find a comfortable spot and join me as Fly Guy and Buzz help us learn about planets and astronauts and much, much more. Enjoy! Fly Guy presents Space by Ted Arnold. Fly Guy presents Space by Ted Arnold. A boy had a pet fly named Fly Guy. Fly Guy could say the boy's name. Buzz. One day, Buzz and Fly Guy were at the Space Museum. I want to fly into space when I grow up, said Buzz. Fly Guy says, Space? Yeah, said Buzz. We can learn all about space right here. You'll notice the sign. It says Space Museum. Space means everything in the universe. The universe is made up of planets, stars, suns, moons, and much, much more. Buzz says the universe is so big that scientists do not know its exact size. Interesting. And what a beautiful photograph of the universe. There are 8 planets in our solar system: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Buzz says, this spaceship went all the way out past Neptune. I'm wondering if that's in fact a satellite. And underneath it says Voyager 2, so that must have been the name of the satellite. See if you can find Earth. I'll give you a clue. Fly Guy's flying around near it. And Fly Guy says, our house. He's pointing to that little blue ball that is Earth. Moons orbit or travel around planets. Earth has 1 moon. You can see underneath it says Earth and its moon. And underneath that, there's a photograph of the surface of the moon. So that's what the land is like on the moon. On the next page, Jupiter has 50 or more. And Fly Guy says many moons. And you'll see the arrows pointing to some of Jupiter's moon. And that top photograph is a picture of the planet Jupiter. And on the bottom here, it says there are at least 146 moons in our solar system. Wow, that's a neat fact. The sun is the biggest object in our solar system. It has 109 times wider than Earth. And you can see there's a photograph, and that little tiny blue ball, that's planet Earth. And next to it is the sun. So you can see that comparison and how small Earth is compared to the sun. The sun is the center of our solar system. All objects orbit around the sun because it has gravity. Gravity attracts objects to one another. Buzz says the sun's gravity pulls the planets like a giant magnet. The sun is a star. Stars are huge balls of burning gas. Stars only look small because they are so far away. The sun is the closest star to Earth. It is 93 million miles away. That's really, 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 really far away. And you can see the photograph of the stars on the right-hand side, and then up close what it really looks like, that big, giant ball of gas. And Buzz says stars are not star-shaped. They are really gigantic balls, just like we can see in the photograph there. So next time at night, when you look up at the sky, I want you to think about that. Not star-shaped. Really big balls of gas. Another cool fact. There are many other objects in our solar system. Meteoroids are small rocks. When they fall toward Earth, they are called meteors. You can see in that photograph there, it says a shooting star is really a meteor. Comets are large pieces of rock, dust, and ice that orbit the sun. Comets are called dirty snowballs. That's an interesting fact. And you can see in the photograph there at the top that that's an image of a real comet. Now on the bottom here it says asteroids are made up of rock and metal. An asteroid belt is made up of lots of asteroids. And you can see here that that photograph is a picture of a real asteroid belt and a real asteroid rock there. Astronauts are people who travel into space to find out more about it. There is no gravity or oxygen in space. Astronauts go on zero-gravity flights to learn how it feels to move without gravity. These rides are like very fast roller coasters. And you can see the astronauts on the right-hand side on a zero-gravity flight. Zero gravity means that the astronauts can float in the air like we see in the picture because there is nothing holding them down. Gravity is what holds our feet to the ground here on planet Earth, and there is no gravity or oxygen in space. Buzz says astronauts call zero-gravity flights vomit comets. Yuck, probably because they're like a very fast roller coaster, assuming that maybe some astronauts get sick at some times. Astronauts wear special clothes to keep them safe. Spacesuits keep astronauts warm or cool and let them breathe. So you can see the spacesuit on the left-hand side. At the top, that first arrow is pointing to the lights. You have the astronaut's helmet, gloves, temperature control valve, safety tether, so if they ever go on the outside of the spaceship, they can be connected to it for safety, and then protection layer. On the right-hand side, it says astronaut Buzz Aldrin walking on the moon. And Buzz says, "You need your own helmet, Fly Guy." Always being so silly. A spacecraft is a vehicle that travels in space. There are many different types of spacecraft. A space capsule is carried into a space by a rocket. Some return to Earth by splashing down in the water. And you can see the capsule landing there, and then what it looks like when it in fact opens up in the water. You can see the astronauts there. Very cool. A space shuttle also blasts off using rockets. When it returns to Earth, it lands on a runway like an airplane. And you'll notice it's pointing there to the rocket boosters. Astronauts can live on space stations. A space station can be as long and wide as a football field. Imagine that, a space station as big as a football field in outer space. Astronauts have done amazing things. In 1961, the first person in space was Yuri Gagarin. In 1962, the first American to orbit Earth, his name was John Glenn. And in 1969, the first astronaut to walk on the moon was Neil Armstrong. And the first words that he said on the moon was, "The eagle has landed." In 1986, the first teachers, yes, teachers, to be a part of the Teacher in Space program were Barbara Morgan and Krista McAuliffe. In 1999, Eileen Collins was the first woman to command a U.S. space shuttle. So truly, astronauts have done some amazing, amazing things. Animals were sent into space before humans. There's Fly Guy. He says, "First in space." Although he's probably an insect, right? It's kind of silly. But in 1947, the first creatures in space were fruit flies. In 1949, Albert II became the first monkey in space. And in 1957, a dog named Laika became the first animal to orbit Earth. Imagine that, animals in outer space. Scientists can learn about space through telescopes. A telescope is a tool that uses lenses and mirrors to make faraway objects look nearer or closer. Look, kids can use telescopes too. You can see the boy there. I assume he's with his dad and they're looking at the night sky using their telescope. The Hubble Space Telescope is as big as a school bus. Another interesting fact. There is still a lot to be learned about space. Earth is the only planet scientists know of that has living things on it. But scientists think there could be other life in the universe. Mars rovers are robots that explore Mars. Scientists are studying if there was ever water on Mars. If there was water there, there might have been life. And you can see in the photograph there the Mars rover. And Fly Guy says, "Aliens!" And Buzz says, "Take me to your leader." They're just being very silly. When Buzz got home, he made his very own asteroid belt. And you'll see he made it out of real rocks and glue. And he says, "We learned a lot about space today," Buzz said. "I can't wait for our next field trip." "Look, Fly Guy, I made it out of rocks and metal." So silly. I hope you enjoyed reading with me today. We got to hear and learn so many cool facts about space today. I know that was a lot of information, but so interesting. Since there was so much, and if this interests you, maybe you might want to take a listen again. Next time, though, you look up into the night sky, you'll probably think a lot differently with all this knowledge of space. Something fun to try at home after reading today with me would be to imagine you are an astronaut and heading on in a mission in outer space. Imagine that you're inside your shuttle. Think about what you might see. Maybe you see planets or stars. Talk about it with your grown-up or draw a picture. Have fun with it. Thanks for reading with me today.